Well, hello and welcome again to our reading of John's Gospel, and we're up to chapter 13, verse 21. Taute epon ho Iesus terakthe to pneumati kai emature sen kai epin. Amen, amen, lego humin hoti hes ex humon paradose me. And having said these things, Jesus was troubled. This is from that tarasso, aorist passive. Tarasso, to disturb or trouble, can be to stir something up. So this is the aorist passive, how he was troubled, he was disturbed in his pneumati, in his life. And he bore witness and said. So a couple of errors there. So in his pneumati, his spirit. So having said these things, Jesus was troubled in his spirit, and he bore witness and said, Truly, truly I say to you, that one of you, paradose, future from paradidomi, will betray me. The subject is down here. Hoi mathetai, the disciples. Now this is a participle, present participle from aporeo. It's an epsilon contract verb. Means to be despondent. It's originally made up from an alpha privative and this poros, having no resource. So being completely at a loss. So the disciples being at a loss regarding whom he was speaking, they were looking at one another. So the disciples were looking around at one another, being despondent, being at a loss regarding whom he was speaking, in regard to who he was talking about. Haste, one of his disciples. Now we get this periphrastic construction here with past tense of the verb to be plus participle. So was reclining. This is this anakemai, to recline. So one of his disciples was reclining in to kolpo, in the bosom of Jesus, a disciple whom Jesus, well, it's the imperfect, but we'll just say loved, but it is imperfect here. Nue un tuto Simon Petros puthestai, tis an ae perihulagay. Simon Peter, nue is from nuo to nod, so he gave a nod, then to this one, that is to this disciple whom Jesus loved, whom people believe was referring to John. So to this one, puthestai is the aorist. It's from punthanamai. And it's the root. You have nasal infix, you've got the iterative an, and there's the root there. Puth is what's left, and this is the aorist, strong aorist infinitive, middle infinitive. So punthanamai is to inquire. So Simon Peter gave the nod to this one to inquire who it was regarding whom he says. Now we get here, this aa is is an optative, in fact, from the verb to be. So this is the third person singular of the optative from Amy. You don't see many optatives in John, nor in the New Testament, but this one here is an optative. So who it was, or who it might have been, regarding whom lege he speaks, that is, Jesus speaks. Anapeson, so reclining, hutos. Then this man, this is probably John, but the beloved disciple, this one then was reclining, hutos thus, or in this way, against the breast of Jesus. So the one who is doing all this, he says to him, Lord, who is it? And Jesus answers, historic presence all the time here, Ikanos, that man is the one to whom, so we get no antecedent here, we get ho, to whom. So he is the one to whom, bapso, for future from bapto, I will dip topsomion, this is a little piece of bread, and I will give it to him. So the grammar here is slightly odd. The auto is redundant, really, given the hoi here, but that's literally what it is. So it's possibly a Hebraism as well, which you often get in Hebrew, where you get the relative pronoun has to be pinned down by something else, and so that carries across sometimes into Greek. So this is the one to whom I will dip the bread and I will give it, to give it to him. Bapsas, this is the aorist participle from bapto, to dip. It's connected with baptism, of course, and so on, baptisma. Then having dipped the psomion, this is the little piece of bread. In fact, in modern Greek, psomi is the word for bread in modern Greek, and this is a little diminutive here, so a little piece of bread. Now this is in square brackets, he takes it and he gives it, historic present, to Judas, son of Simon Iscariot. Now this is, again, interesting in terms of the name, because this time we get, and there's variant readings here, because we get this is son of Simon Iscariot, as though the Iscariot is going with this Simon and not with Judas. Anyway, the commentaries can tell you more about all this. I just pointed out here, kai metatopsomion. Now this is an odd phrase here. It literally is, and after the bread, at that time, Satan entered into Ekanon, that man, that is Judas. So it's either after this business with the bread, with the little piece of bread. Now if it was meta plus the genitive, it would mean along with the bread, which is interesting. But with meta plus the accusative is going to mean after. And so I'm not sure you can press that alternative. So after the incident with the bread, at that time Satan entered into him, and Jesus then says to him, ho, relative pronoun with no antecedent, that which you are doing, poieson, aorist imperative, do, tachyon, more quickly. This is a neuter comparative from tachus, and it's slightly irregular comparative. It's tachus, tachyon, and this is the neuter, tachyon, more quickly, so it's an adverbial use. So that which you are doing, do more quickly. Udes, and they put a connective here, but no one perhaps understood this. No one of those reclining understood this, prosti apen autu. Well, prosti, for what reason? So why he said understand, and you could take the tutor with that. So none of those reclining understood why he said this to him. You could take the tutor down with the second part. For certain ones, edokun, were thinking, this is the imperfect from docio, certain ones were thinking, since Judas held the glossokomon, we've had that word before, I've talked about that in an earlier reading, so this is the money box. So since Judas held the money box, that Jesus says to him, this is what they thought. Again, the grammar is very is very odd here. You just have to take it literally. So for certain ones thought that since Judas held the money box, that Jesus says to him, agorason, this is from agorazdo, and this is the aorist imperative, by, now we get a genitive here, relative pronoun, so by, it's a partitive genitive, by those things which we have need for the feast. So by those things of which we have need in regard to the feast. So they thought that's what Jesus had said, or he said this, hina, in order that, do, this is the subjunctive from didomi, aorist subjunctive, the subject is Judas, that he might give something, tois patokos, to the poor. Therefore, having taken, so ekanos, that man, that's Judas, having taken then the psomion, the little piece of bread, he went out euthos immediately. And we get this lovely little 3 words here which are very powerful, ein de nux, and it was night. John's very fond of dark and light and night and day and so on. These are common motifs in John. So this is quite effective here, just these little 3 words, and it was night, ein de nux. Hote, when then, exhale, then he went out, Jesus says, now the Son of Man has been glorified, aorist passive from doxasdo, and God has been glorified in him. And then in square brackets we have, if God has been glorified in him, also God will glorify him in him, possibly reflexive here, in himself, and the variant reading here is heauto. So I think it's generally taken, God will glorify him in himself, and immediately he will glorify him. Rather strange little section there. You should consult the commentaries. Technia, children, still a little time I am with you. Certesitime, you will seek me, future from Satio, and just as I said to the Jews, we get hoti recitative, where I depart, where I am going, you are not able, you lot, you plural, are not able to come, and I say this now also to you. So just as I said it to the Jews before, I say now, understand this also to you. You have to be careful with kai, it can mean and or also or even, and context is important. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, just as I loved you. This is this use of hina, that also you love one another. En tuto, in this, pantes, all, gnosontai, future from gnosko, will know. So in this, all will know that este, second person plural, from Amy, you are disciples for me. So dative of the possessor here, that you are my disciples. If you might have love among one another. Now again, this in can mean in, can also mean by, and often can mean among. So if you have love among one another. Simon Peter says to him, Lord, where are you going? And Jesus answered him, Hopu hubago u dunasai moi nun akulathesai. Akulatheses de husteron. So where I am going, now this is used singular, so So it's speaking specifically to Peter. It's not a plural here. So where I am going, you, Peter, are not able now, akoluthesai, to follow. This is from akolutheo. This is the aorist infinitive. Akolutheses, future, from akolutheo, you will follow, but you will follow husteron afterwards. Peter says to him, Lord, dear tit, on account of what thing, so why am I not able, akoluthesai, to follow, takes a dative, you. RT now. So why am I not able to follow you now? Theso, literally, I will place my life on behalf of you. So this is the future. This is the future from tithemi. So I will offer up. I will place, offer up my life for you. Jesus answered with a question: will you offer up your life for me? Truly, truly, I say to you, ume plus the subjunctive, in no way will the elector, the cock, phonesai, call out, so we would say crow, but the verb is just to call out. There are verbs of crowing in Greek, but it's not here. So the cock will in no way make a noise or crow, heos u, until arnese, this is from arneamai. This is the second person singular from arneamai. Arnese, until you deny me, tris, 3 times. And that's the end of that chapter 13.